Hey everybody, welcome to King of Honor. I'm your host. This can't change to me how a host even is. Um, and welcome my good buddy, the Honorable Jeff. Um,
Hello.
and I do want to make I guess, a programming announcement for going forward for the rest of the summer. It's just that there's gonna be like a few weeks where we're just not gonna be on the air because I won't be around to do shows. So
Which is
that's
what
what's been
happened this last 2 weeks.
yeah, this is kind of been happening lately. But one reason for that is exciting. I'm going to All Out. So I was at the first ever. I was at All In. I was at the first All Out. I don't really, their plan always was to do their All Out shows in Chicago, all of them, and last year they did it in Florida. So I'm just going to consider that one as being not
Well,
really an All Out show. So
l-
I'm going to say I'm going to my third straight All Out. So
last year didn't count anyway because there were no fans.
right, exactly.
So even if you're trying to go for your attendance record, you'll hit everyone that has fans.
Right,
So
and I told my wife last weekend when I was or no, it was last weekend, a few days ago when I was ordering tickets. I was like, there's not very many people in the world that can say that they went to all out and all in and then all out, back to back years. So,
right.
and I'm one of them. So, less than 12,000 out of 8 billion people. So,
I watched them both on TV. I haven't missed an all out either or an all in.
yeah. Next week I haven't told Jess this yet, but next week I won't be able to do shows because it's my wife's birthday weekend and we're going to be out of town again. So um, they were out of town the weekend before all out. So I don't know. I
Well,
got
one thing since we're not going to probably ever review Space Jam, because by the time we get to it, they'll get to do a show. There's going to actually be another one out. I will say
what?
this
Go ahead.
about Space Jam. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh, you
I
watched it?
actually, I watched it yesterday because I thought we
Okay.
were going to do it. I thought we were going to do it today, but we're not because you ran out of time and everything. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Me and my kid watched it. He enjoyed it. We actually watched it 2 times in a row. It was entertaining. It was everything I was hoping Tom and Jerry would be. Meaning,
And you were dreading it. You were
yeah,
like absolutely. But like last
it
time we
was.
talked, you were like, I don't know if I can do it. I don't think I can actually watch this.
Well, I said it when we first announced it, and then we saw the schedule, and that movie I'm not going to watch. That'll be
Hmm.
terrible, absolutely terrible. And I watched it, and I enjoyed it. It was entertaining. It was fun. It actually was a decent story that was being told. Don Cheadle is amazing in his role, and it was just. I thought it was just a fun, good movie.
Speaking of Space Jam, I wanted to show you this, and I'll do it on the air since we're talking about it. Space Jam is such a big movie. We get a mystery box for our dogs every month called Bark Box, and
Ah,
these are the two items that came in for toys this month.
Bugs Bunny from
Bugs Bunny from Space Jam and
Porky.
Forky from
So
Space Jam, and they and
there's
they have
a
their Toon Squad uniforms on.
Yeah. The funny thing is unlike the original one, there was an actual story that was being told. Um, that tied into the basketball game. And the basketball game was it was based on LeBron's son Dominic was is a 12-year-old kid who invented a video game. And it's a basketball that gives you like different points for different things, like the style points, stuff like that. And they had, you do something really cool on the court, and you can end up with 1,000 points. And it was
Really?
just they were down like 1,039-20 at halftime, and then LeBron decided to let them be loony, and it just changed the whole thing. And you know how it was. He wasn't going to lose the game anyway. I mean, that's just the way that it is. But um, it was really
So
entertaining.
was it kind of like real life Space Jam? I mean, yeah, not Space Jam. Fuck, what was the name of that game?
NBA Jam.
NBA Jam. Yeah.
kind of, but way more power-ups and stuff.
Okay.
It was, I mean, like I said, the story was fun. The story was actually easy to follow. It so much better than In the Heights, which I think, my life is better than In the Heights. That was just awful shit. But the story was, it was easy to follow. It was fun to follow. It wasn't like LeBron. I was thinking LeBron was just going to be annoying throughout the whole thing. He was actually really good. Don Cheadle was amazing. His role as the villain was just amazing. And it had everything that we wanted Tom and Jerry to be. We wanted Tom and Jerry to be doing their hijinks in New York, and we ended up getting some stupid story about some temp who's trying to become a real girl. In this one, they let the tunes be tunes, and it was really fun. It was, and my kid sat here, and my 5-year-old sat here. He enjoyed it. We watched it twice. I watched it once, and then we turned it on because he wanted to see it right away again. So he watched it a second time. We'll probably never actually talk about it on an actual show, but I would definitely recommend it. This is one I would definitely recommend for people to sit and enjoy, because it was an enjoyable movie.
All right, cool. Yeah, I just, like you said, I just ran out of time yesterday. I wanted to watch the anniversary live, and I kind of wish I'd watched Space Jam now that I now you told me about it. Because I thought the anniversary was good, but it wasn't anything like, it wasn't like, what was the last one, Unbreakable? That remember how good that show was.
Yeah.
This one, I thought it was good, but there was nothing like earth shattering on it other than. Have you seen anything about it yet? No?
No, I'm looking it up now.
Okay,
Um,
because there was something that could have cool happened at the end, but the way that the show actually ended was kind of like, well, you could have done that on Impact, you know.
was there a yeah, that sounds like every AEW pay-per-view, the ending they could have just done on Impact.
Well,
But
if you're looking it up right now, I'll just tell you right now that after the main event, the Good Brothers and Kenny Omega and Don were about to do the two sweet in the middle of the ring, and King Switch's music started playing,
really,
and he walked down to the ring with the Never Openly Championship. Yep.
I am loving this working together stuff. Speaking of King Switch, brand new shirt of his. Just got it in my wrestling crate this week.
That's awesome.
I love it. It's and it on the bottom, you couldn't see it, but that's his logo, and then on the bottom it says King Switch. So it's very enjoyable. But I'm loving this working together relationship that everybody's got. It's so fun to see an Impact pay-per-view with with AEW stars standing off against a New Japan star. It's just I'm loving it. I'm loving every bit of it.
Yeah. He was on that show. Finjuice was on the show. Um, and I had texted you like earlier in the day, and I'm like, Ruby Riot's going to show up tonight, and right? And you're like, well, what did she sign with Impact? And I was like, well, we know it's not going to be Chelsea Green because she signed with
Ring of
ROH
Honor, which we found out on
and
Saturday.
and guess who showed up? Chelsea Green. And then
What?
that actually was not the unprocessed opponent. She was actually Chelsea was teaming up with her real life fiance Matt Cardona to take on Brian Myers and I can't think of her name. Anyway, she used to be Emma in WWE. I can't remember.
Sam Beal, and Tennille Dashwood.
Tennille Dashwood. There you go. And then but then the actual opponent for Deonna Purrazzo turned out to be just like another example of talent sharing, Thunder Rosa.
Nice.
And then Mickey James came out right after that, basically inviting Deonna to Power, and then Deonna took offense to that and got kicked in the face. So.
Who? Okay, where's Ace Austin? Was he in? Oh, he was in that.
He was in the Ultimate X match.
Okay.
Which the Ultimate X match I think was easily stole the show, and he has just some incredibly innovative spots in there.
This is on Fight TV, right? It wasn't on Impact Plus.
It's on Fight TV, yeah. I'll send you the login information if you
Well,
don't.
I'm rolling through this, and the card that I found, there's not really there's no results. I'm just looking at the matches. So
Okay, sorry.
there is a couple things like, it doesn't matter. I don't care if it's good. I'll enjoy it regardless if I know the outcome or not. But I am loving this talent sharing. This is just amazing stuff. It's when you've got this many companies working together, only good things happen.
Yeah.
Nobody gets stale, nothing, like um you have nice matchups that continue, and we talked about it when it was just AEW and Impact that were teaming up. But now you've got AEW, you've got Impact, you've got New Japan all over the place. I mean,
Hmm.
Japan's in, they're in AEW, they're in Impact, they're still on Ring of Honor occasionally, with Rocky Romero working with Ring of Honor. There's a lot of great stuff happening, and it won't be long before Ring of Honor is on Impact and on AEW as well.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, Chelsea Green's already was already on or last night. So
Yep, and
um,
she's she's signed with Ring of Honor,
right.
but they're talent sharing. I love talent sharing so much. And the only thing that's going to happen out of this is that it's just killing WWE, because
Yeah. I mean,
WWE is stale and not changing. They're not doing anything fresh. Raw is unwatchable from everything I hear, because it's literally the same 6 matches every single week.
yeah. I mean, if you think about it, this was an Impact show, but they had AEW talent on there, they had Ring of Honor talent on there, they had New Japan Pro Wrestling talent on there, and they had NWA talent.
Yeah.
So for the other big debut for them, Jeff, you're gonna be amazed. You're gonna be thrilled. You're not gonna be able to understand. You're not gonna be able to take your eyes away from the screen. It was No Way Jose.
Notice my stunned silence. I don't give a shit. Please tell
I
me he
know.
doesn't come out dancing, and
I
does
wish
he
I could
come
tell you
out
that. I wish I could tell you that.
does he come out dancing with all the people that are doing the conga line? The rip off of what was his name? The party guy in
Oh
WWE.
yeah, what was his name? He
Rose
was the Russell.
something.
Yeah,
Something Rose.
yeah, he was like the Russell Brand ripoff guy. Can't
Yeah.
think of his name.
Adam Rose.
Yeah, Adam Rose. Yeah,
Yeah. But
yeah. No, but no, he does. He does. TJP got injured and wasn't able to wrestle, and there was already their four-way tag um,
right.
set up, and so Falaba came out and he said they told me I had to find um, a substitute for TJP, and I said no way, Jose, and and so he comes out dancing his Congo line, yeah, including Johnny Swinger's part of the Congo line.
Of course he is. So which match is this?
This is the fatal four-way tag.
Where is it on the card?
It is third from the top.
Okay, so at least I'll have a nice long bathroom break.
Yeah.
During that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not a card where there was anything that I thought was. I mean, maybe the main event and maybe the open match were great, but other than that, and also I should say, to be fair and say I was distracted for a lot of it, and also I was tired for all of it. So it's possible it's better than I'm saying it was, but that Ultimate X match I thought had some phenomenal spots in it, and the main event I really. Although I gotta have to say I'm kind of getting tired of Sammy. I really enjoy him. At the same time, I'm kind of tired of the whole every match has to be a hard.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, we had that with Raven's rules in WCW, but the difference was I thought Raven could work the regular match very well. I'm not convinced that Sammy Callahan can.
I can't remember the last time. I mean, there was a hair versus mask match or whatever that he had.
But that was also
ended up being a hardcore match.
Exactly. I was going to say there.
The last time I think I saw him work a legitimate match that wasn't a hardcore match, but he was still so over the top that it was over the top heelish that it was almost hard to watch, was his match against Tessa when he lost the title. I think
Yeah, that's
that
what I
might be
say.
the last time.
Yeah, and even that, there was a ref bump, and so it still turned into a hard.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, I get it. But and it's sad because a couple of years ago he was our wrestler of the year.
Hmm.
He was easily that run that he had when he was in MLW and then solely in Impact, his run up to the world title. He was easily the best wrestler in the States. Now I'm not going to say the world because Japan had Jay White and Kenny Omega and everything, but he was easily the best character in the United States.
And I still think he's a great character. It's just hard for me to it's kind of getting like the big show levels of like unwatchable for me just because for Big Show is for different reasons because he always I could never tell if he was supposed to be a good guy or a bad guy. WWE can never figure it out.
Right.
But for Sammy, it's just that he doesn't wrestle regular matches ever.
And the thing is, this is another reason why I'm glad that they let Braun Strowman go because they were going down the Big Show route with him too. Every week he was having a heel or face turn, and it was just getting to a point where it was hard to stomach. And I saw them going down that Big Show route with him.
And you know what? Even though I watched Impact's big pay per view last night. I watched Best in the World 2012, 2021 from Ring of Honor over the week because we couldn't watch it last Sunday because their fucking stream went
Right.
down. I watched the Bucks take on um, Kingston and Penta twice, right? But
Right.
I still, after watching all this, I'm not convinced that the best match I saw over the last couple of weeks wasn't MJF versus Sammy Guevara.
Oh, that
That
was
match to close out Impact or to close out Dynamite. I mean, the promos before it, and then that match itself, chef's kiss, chef's kiss.
yeah.
Man.
It was that is easily the best match I've seen in the last month. Like hands down the best match. There was only one part of it that kind of made me cringe a little bit. And the reason it made me cringe is because it was a move that had gotten so much press and so much love that it happened 2 days earlier. And that was the dive that Sammy took off the top rope over the barricade to hit MJF.
Okay.
Ricochet had just done that 2 days earlier on Raw
Oh,
to somebody. I can't even remember who he was wrestling, but John Morrison. John Morrison jumped over the barricade, and then Ricochet jumped from the top rope over the barricade on him.
were they having a one-on-one match?
Yeah. Yep.
Holy shit! I'm not trying to find that match.
It's on Peacock. I mean, they've got it was Raw like 2 days before the Sammy Guevara MJF match is when they had it. It was Ricochet versus John Morrison, and they did they did it on Monday, and then Sammy and MJF did the same thing. Well, granted, the move was a little, it was more flippy from Sammy, but it was still way too close to not be a total rip-off and copy. And
Sure.
the John Morrison Ricochet move got so much Twitter love, like it was everywhere. People were retweeting it left and right, so that's what made it stand out a little bit more when MJF and Sammy did it. But still, that the story, the weeks leading up to it, the promos before, the attacks in the back and all this stuff, everything leading up to that match, and as much as the ending sucked because I really wanted Sammy to come out on top, that might be my match of the year right now. To be honest, that was amazing with everything that went into it. And if you think about it, this match has been kind of brewing since Blood and Guts.
Yeah, absolutely. It
So
has been.
it's been a good couple of months storyline to get us to that point. And then we saw the future of wrestling. Two guys that are going to be main eventing pay-per-views like Rock and Austin did for decades.
And actually, Jeff, you're wrong. This match has been brewing since December. Sammy
you're
was
right.
Sammy was the Sammy was he quit the inner circle because of MJF. He was the one that was kind of involved in setting everything up with revealing that MJF was not really part of the inner circle and all that stuff. So
Yeah, you're right. It's been going. It was a 7-month build.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm hard pressed right now to not have that as my match of the year, and for it to be a TV match and have it be the match of the year because of the story and everything involved. It just shows how good those two are.
Yeah. It's yeah. They're those two. 5 years down the road, 2 years down the road. I can't imagine what those two are going to do with each other.
Well, like I said, it's going to be Rock Austin. Like, it's going to be to the point where we're sick of seeing them because they're just main eventing every pay-per-view. I hope it doesn't go down the Cena Orton route,
Yeah.
but I could easily see those two as the next Rock Austin. Easily. And
Um,
Sammy makes such a good face. Like I was scared when I saw it when Inner Circle did a face turn because everything I've seen of Sammy screams heel. Like even the stuff I watched before, because when we first saw him at NWA 70 with his Mr. Money'sworth character, I thought he was amazing. I started following his YouTube channel and looking at his old matches. I've never seen him as a face until this face turn that he had with the Inner Circle. And he is nails with it. He hits every mark. Crowds behind him. Granted, he's not Jungle Boy popular, but um, I've been saying it for a couple of years. I don't know if there's a better up and coming wrestler than Sammy Guevara. I really don't. I really don't. I mean, I've got my favorites. I love Jay White. I think Jay White's not up and coming anymore. I think he's there. MJF is the same. They're all up and coming, but I think Sammy Guevara is the one that is going to go down as one of the best of all time, because he can do it. He has proven he can do it all.
yeah, and really, I mean, he's still growing into his body too. He and Jungle Boy, they're both still growing into their bodies. So
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Exactly. And that's
like and I speaking of that, like I'm sorry, I'm gonna I do want to go back to this topic, right? But while I'm thinking of it, I do also want to what I just mentioned, Ace Austin, that same kind of category, like 2 years ago, he was a skinny, thick twig of a guy. We can see the talent there, but now, I mean, look at the definition of his hips. Look at his legs and his. I mean, he's turned himself from like a cruiserweight style, like a preliminary guy to being a main event level guy that you could easily see wrestle with any heavyweight on the planet.
Will Ospreay is another one that made that transformation.
Yep. Yep, he did.
He only gained, I think, 15 pounds of muscle, because he was already hovering around that 205 mark. Now he's, I think, 220 something. But he was another guy that just changed his style slightly so that it's still Ospreay, but is now able to be believable with the heavyweights.
Yep, and I feel like Ace did the same.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to say about this Guevara match is how. So I watched. I was a couple of weeks behind on Dynamite, right? But I wanted to get caught up, especially since I'm going to All Out. And so it was after I had watched Ring of Honor's pay-per-view and before I watched Impact's pay-per-view. So I basically watched Dynamite back, right? The last match I saw one night was Guevara versus MJF. The first match I saw the next night was Cody versus QT Marshall. And after seeing that back to back, Cody needs to stop doing the fucking Cody cutter because he can't do it anywhere near as well as Sammy Guevara does. Sammy does it from springing outside the ring onto the top rope, flowing smoothly into it, and Cody almost falls off the top rope to do it.
Yeah, and I'm going to give QT Marshall credit. I think he's fitting his role well. He's doing a good job of making me care about him, even though I don't like him. And he is a really, really talented in-the-ring wrestler. Really talented. And that's something that we never really saw with his tag team. I never really saw when he started this whole heel turn. But the longer he goes with this heel turn, the more and more I start to enjoy what he does.
I agree. I just wish there had been more evenness to their feud. More evenness to their feud. Like, I mean, Cody basically just dominated him across the board. So it feel so to me. It felt more, and I'm sure there was stuff on Dark that would maybe change my mind if I watched all those Dark shows. But um, what I did see on Dynamite made it feel more like it's just something for Cody to do to keep, to tread water than it was really
Well,
to push QT Marshall up.
it started with a Cody burial to begin with, where they had their gentleman's match,
Hmm.
and Cody buried him, saying, "I won't hurt you. I won't hurt you." It's like he gave QT absolutely zero respect, and then he dominated that match and made it look like at any time he could have just ended QT's career. And then QT turned heel, and I said at the time, I'm like, I don't care about it. I really don't care. I don't care about the Nightmare Factory. I don't care about QT's, because QT at that time did not come across as a viable opponent. And even though he has lost the feud so far to Cody, I think he's progressed in every single match to where he's more and more viable every time. In this, what was this, South Beach strap match?
Hmm.
That was his best. That was their best performance together, and his best performance, even in a losing effort, his best performance up to date.
And actually, what a fantastic match those two put together out of a gimmick that's always sucked.
Yep.
I mean, I shouldn't say always. I mean, that Sting match against Vader was pretty great too, back in Super Bowl III. But I mean, we're talking 20 years ago, right? So I mean, this is and I guess Cena and Rusev had a really good one a couple of years ago, 3 or 4 or 5 years ago as well. But the thing is, with this gimmick, it almost always is the same way, right? And instead of doing that, they like teased it like 5 minutes into the match,
Yep.
and then they just totally went away from it, and they had an actual wrestling match involving that just happened to involve this gimmick to it.
The
And
only
and
thing,
and, and Cody basically beat QT Marshall the same way he's beat a lot of his top level opponents. He's hit 3 straight crossroads on them and then gone for the pin, except for this time he just dragged him across the ring. So I really appreciated that about this match, that these two, like we talked about that ladder match a few weeks ago between um, Knight and Grimes,
uh,
where
yeah,
they wrestled a wrestling match inside of the ladder gimmick. These two wrestled a wrestling match inside of the strap match.
yeah. I mean, they used the strap matches, and Grimes and LA Knight used the ladder not as a gimmick, but as part of the match. They told a
Yeah,
match, they
exactly.
did a match, they worked a match, and oh yeah, by the way, we have this strap here. And I did enjoy that too. The one thing about strap matches is that it has always bugged me, and will until the dying days of strap matches. Um, Now, you have to touch 4 corners consecutively. If that gets broken, you have to start over. So this is one thing about strap matches that always bugged me. One guy touches it, the guy he's dragging behind then touches it too. Doesn't that break it? Because they're not touching consecutively now because the other guy touched it too, so that broke his original one. That's one
Well,
thing about strap matches I always hate.
that's how they phrased it this week. But usually, what I've heard of that, what I've heard is that you have to break the momentum of moving to between the corners. So in that sense, no, it doesn't really break them because they're still the same momentum is going forward. You know.
Yeah, I suppose, but still, that's just one thing that is one of those little technical things that has always bugged me about strap matches.
Yep.
You know,
And then
speaking
and
of,
then and then that night that was not the last thing Cody did that night, was it?
no, it was not. He
No.
uh he has my favorite moment on AEW TV now.
Getting the fuck kicked out of his face by Malachi Black.
And it's funny because I remember when we were watching Aleister Black, who's now Malachi Black, and I love the fact that they're like and I'll get back to this, but Excalibur, the way that he's like, that's Tommy End, but that is not Tommy End.
Hmm.
This is a whole different guy. This is a different guy than the Tommy End I know.
Yep, he's
Uh,
twisted and dark inside now. That's what he
Yep.
said.
And I love the way that Excalibur did that. That was one of my favorite introductions to a new character I think I've ever seen, because he immediately gave to all the people that knew Tommy End and knew what he was like. He was able to take Tommy End and keep the AEW or the WWE character and just improve on. on himself, and Excalibur took it, ran with it, and sold every part of it, made him believable right from the start.
Yep.
What the thing I liked about his debut is, remember what we thought about him, what, 4 or 5 years ago, when he was uh the NWA or the NXT champion, and it was his match against Ciampa which turned our feelings on him, where we thought he was just a kick and punch guy. That's all he did. All he could do was kick, 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 kick. And then he had that match against Ciampa, and we realized how good of an in-ring talent he actually was. And he's been able to improve on that, even not being on TV once he got called up to the main roster, to the point where when he showed up on AEW, I was legitimately excited to see him,
Me too.
and really looking forward to what he's going to do there.
Right. I mean, I remember that we would originally call him Kicky McHit on this show.
Yep.
And
Yep.
but then like you said, it was something at some point it started, and it did start with Ciampa. It carried on through Gargano that we realized how great he really was, and to the point where like what was it, a month and a half ago, we said we were talking about how if you can't make a star out of Aleister Black, and we said the
Yeah.
same thing about Chelsea Green, and now ROH, and in fact, immediately made Chelsea Green a star again. And
Right out
Malachi
of the
Black
gate.
and Malachi Black takes him 10 seconds to become a star.
Yeah, and Chelsea Green walked on stage, and immediately her star power was there, something she didn't have. And when we talk about her debut,
Because she didn't have a sleazy, slick man speaking for her and standing in front of her the whole fucking time.
Yeah, and reading off a script. She was able to go out there and cut a promo. And another thing that I'm liking, like we saw it with W. Morrissey, and we've seen it with a couple other people, but Chelsea Green was the one that kind of got me. She's like, when she comes out, you're not getting the hot mess. You're getting the star I should have been for the last 2.5 years. Where they come out and they basically say, look, I've been held back. And a lot of people that leave WWE say the same thing, that WWE holds them back because of their style of wrestling.
And the other thing, speaking of, and Chelsea Green reminded me of it for so long. I joked about Britt Baker being Chelsea Baker, right? Because they look so much alike. And they don't anymore because Britt has put on so much body mass and muscle and stuff. They look different now, but they did for a long time look like the same chick. But I also really enjoyed, and again, I have not watched this past week's Dynamite yet. I'm planning on watching that today or tomorrow night. But the promo that Britt cut after being powerbombed by Nyla Rose the week before. So like last week's, like not this past week's time, but the week before. Did you watch that promo?
Mm-hmm.
And I loved so much the subtle things that Rebel was doing during that promo.
Yep.
Where she would be like, who cares? She'd do like the thing with the thumb. And I just think that's so great that subtle thing where Rebel, like originally she was just like behind Britt, and now she's like slowly, a little bit more and more every week, a little bit more like rebelling against that, right? I mean, that's her name is Rebel, but I mean she's like rebelling against that, and so if this eventually leads to those two splitting and Rebel like challenging Britt for that championship, or even just a feud between the two of them, I think it's just going to be so well done with the seeds they've been planning over the last year, and probably like another year before that actually happens. That I think is just going to be so great to see. At some point, like Rebel's going to get to the point where she's just kind of like Batista did with Triple H, right? Like Batista did with Evolution, where kind of like that grooming thing's going on. Even though Rebels I know is better, but kind of that grooming thing going on where she's going to like break out of that shell, and it's possibly so much on her side. It's going to be something that's just really brilliant and spectacular to watch. And you can just see it. You can see it building, but it's also just amusing at the same time. And I'm just really enjoying that aspect of those two characters so much.
So you haven't seen Night One of Fyter Fest yet?
I have not.
Okay, there's 2 promos on there that I really enjoyed. One was Omega and Paige, and then Britt Baker came out solo middle of the ring and probably cut the best promo of her career.
Without Rebel?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
It was just her and Tony standing in the middle of the ring. And I mean, if Rebel was there, she was a non-factor, and I didn't notice her.
Sure.
But she got in the ring, she hugged Tony, and then cut the best promo of her career.
Yeah, and that I don't remember that entire MJF promo that he cut on Sammy, but when he said after this match, I'm going to have to unfortunately call you the future of the business because I'm the right now.
Yeah,
It was just great,
yeah,
just great.
he's
So
and we got more. Well, you watched 2 weeks ago, so you saw the setup with MJF and Jericho, what Jericho has to
mhm.
do to go get to him. Well,
Yep.
we got the reveal of the first match on night one of Fighter Fest, which was weird because it was a tape segment because Jericho was at Rockfest in Wisconsin, um, and was performing on Saturday night. So I don't know if he was live or if that was recorded, but I know he performed Friday night at Rockfest with Fozzy. So I suppose he could have flew in after the promo, but it looked like it could have been a recorded promo in the back.
Sure. Yeah. Trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, the Bucks. I mentioned the Bucks against Penta and Kingston. I could watch those two teams wrestle each other every single fucking week.
Aren't the
So
Bucks
so good,
just
so good.
the
Sorry, go ahead.
Bucks are so good at being heels. I
They
almost
are.
forget how good they are, because over the last, Jesus, what, 2016 when they started the Elite, they've kind of been the baby face, not the smarmy heels like they were back in Ring of Honor in 2012. But they are pulling that off and bringing that style back, and it's so enjoyable to watch. And
Hmm.
they're so good at it. I love the different mustaches every week. It's just I'm really enjoying them as heel characters.
But the official that you really loved saw over the last week was Matt Taven's, right?
What the hell was that? Jesus Christ! It's like he glued a cat to his face. I mean, I don't know what the hell was going on with his beard, but oh my God, that I mean, what, it stood out to like here, didn't it?
Yeah.
It was, oh,
Actually, what it is, and this is a little bit weird, but it's like if Harley Race had that same butt chops that he had in those like old style matches we were watching, and then that's
yeah,
how he died, and the hair just kept growing.
yeah, that's kind of, oh my God, yeah. Matt Taven needs to shave his beard. He really needs to shave his beard. Um, but yeah, and that promo kind of bothered me because he was ready to leave Ring of Honor. And why even bother mentioning that when Vinny just comes in? I don't want your career. I just want your title shot.
I really did not. I'm happy the match got set up. I'm looking forward to seeing those two in a cage match, and I don't like cage matches, so that's kind of weird to say. But I really want these guys to settle this thing and move on.
Yeah.
And I mean, even if it's Taven, moving on where he's facing off against other members of that stable, kind of like Moxley did with the Elite, would be fine with me. But I really just want Taven and Vinny to get away from each other for at least a little while.
Yeah, they're
Um,
starting to become um that Sammy Kevin Owens type of feud where it's like
yeah.
they put on great matches, you can enjoy seeing them every time, but eventually you just get sick of it, and
Yep.
they need to go their separate ways.
Yep. I
But
mean, that's the thing is like Sammy and Kevin Owens. And part of it for me is probably that I lived through it twice, right? Ring of
well,
Honor,
three
and then
times,
right
three
three times
times, Ring of
Ring
Honor,
of Honor
NXT,
and WWE. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So,
I mean, we lived through their feud 3 times, and it's great. They put on amazing matches, like match of the year candidates every single time they're in the ring. They have great chemistry. Everything they do is amazing. It just got to a point where it was like, okay, this has to be their last match.
and
And
they and they even announced it as a stipulation the next week on Raw. No, 2 weeks later on Raw, they had a match against each other again.
in a tag
They
team
just
match,
totally
yeah.
they just totally fucking ignored the stipulation.
But the nice thing is they got, after they did their little friend, where they were when Sammy turned heel, and they were actual friends again. Um, they did a good job of, not overdoing it and kind of separating each other. And then when they had their match at WrestleMania 37 or whatever the one that we just had was, I actually looked forward to seeing those two in the ring again. So they did give them quite a bit of time, a space there that I wasn't sick of seeing it by the time they put on another match.
All I'm saying is that like 3 years ago,
But
they had that match where it was supposed to be the last match between them ever, and then I think they did the Raw draft or something. So like 2 weeks later, they had a match against each other again.
Yeah.
It's just so stupid.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah. So that and that team, like I said, they did a great job setting that up, right? So now we already know what the matches are on night 1 and night 2 of Glory by Honor, which was really cool. Which they set it up, they set it up during the show, and then they set it up in the pre-show. So we know that night 1 we're going to get Bandito versus Flip Gordon for the ROH World Championship, and night 2 we're going to get Matt Taven versus Vincent, sorry, for the shot at the World Championship. So that's cool in a cage match. So I'm glad that those are set up great. But yeah, that I go ahead. I'll let you Jeff, since you were about to say. Speaking of,
I did want to say that what was the other show that we watched, because we missed 2 weeks here, so we watched another Ring of Honor show.
We watched
Glory by Honor, right?
Death Before Dishonor 2012,
which was the start of the real build of Scum, where they're starting to become a real thing. I love the whole kind of teasing of Rhett Titus during that match against Carino and Jimmy Jacobs when he was tag teaming with Charlie Haas. There was that tease that Titus is going to become Scum, but at the same time he still held onto his roots to get beat up by world's greatest tag team, or wrestling's greatest tag team. And the Jay Lethal.
What a fucking scumbag Shelton Benjamin was in that match.
What's that?
What a fucking scumbag Shelton Benjamin was in that match.
Oh, he was the whole night. Yeah, he was terrible the whole night.
But that second match, the finals, it was like, okay, so your partner's about to be a tag team champion. You're just gonna fucking over.
Right.
And I mean that I have no idea what goes on later on. Wrestling's greatest tag team after this, but that would have been a great way to set up the feud between those two.
I didn't realize that in 2012 Charlie Haas was 39 years old.
Was he really?
He 37 or 39. It was one of the two. But they because they brought up the graphics beforehand, and it showed Rhett Titus is 25, and then it showed Charlie Haas's age, and I was always questioning, well, why is Charlie Haas, after he left Ring of Honor, we never heard from him again. It's probably because he was in his 40s by the time he left Ring of Honor. So it was a good retirement age.
He is almost exactly 3 years older than me, so he is 49 right now.
He's 49. So yeah, in 2012 he was 38.
Yeah.
39. 38. So 37, 38. So yeah, they probably said he was 37. But that explains a whole lot about why he I always wondered what happened to Charlie Haas. He was just one of those guys. I'm like, he was so talented, he just kind of went away. Well, Jesus, in 2012, he was 37. He was pushing the end of his career anyway.
Yeah, I guess I did not realize that either, because he was. Well, I guess that makes sense, because that would mean he was like 27 when he debuted in for WWE, right?
Yep, and he was a former amateur wrestler, so who was in the Olympics, wasn't he? I think he was in the Olympics, if I remember right. But regardless, he
don't remember.
But then when you see Shelton Benjamin still wrestling, as late as 2 years ago. Actually, now isn't he part of the Hurt Business, or was part of the Hurt Business, or whatever on Raw?
I believe he is. Yeah, no, they broke up.
Yeah, so now he's feuding with Cedric Alexander. But to see him still going, I just always wondered what happened to Charlie Haas. But that makes sense if he was 37 years old back in 2012.
Shelton is about 3 months younger than me, so he is 46, right? So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But the
But
other thing,
that leads kind of the stuff we talked about before, though, when like back in like 90, was it 94, 95, when 95 it was when the Hollywood Blondes were talking about how old Ric Flair was, and he was only like 40 at the
I didn't think he was 40. I thought he was,
time.
because I thought Arn. Well, yeah, yeah, he was like 39, and Arn was 35, and they were talking about how old they were and how they're washed
Yeah,
up and everything. And now you got people like Minoru Suzuki, who's what, 55 and still going strong. Yuji Nagata is in his 50s. There's a lot of wrestlers that are pretty much every one of the top stars on Raw right now, except for Roman Reigns, is in their 40s.
yep,
You know, but it's just weird how much longer people can perform. Once as time goes on. Um,
exactly.
the other thing to note about Death Before Dishonor from 2012 was the start of Jay Lethal's heel turn,
Yes,
and
yes.
that he is establishing himself as the most enjoyable character that we're going to see for the next couple of years, because he's about to embark on his House of Truth turn and his TV title run, which is probably the best run of his career.
I that show, I looked at the main event and I'm like, Rhino versus Kevin Steen, what the fuck? And then the match happened. I'm like, I was like, why do I always forget how good Rhino used to be? I mean, why do I always forget that he was a fucking talented individual? Because those two put on the hell of a match, and
Yep.
I always forget, and I shouldn't, because my favorite of all time, and yours now too, that you saw it, Bound for Glory 2005.
Yep.
That was another star making thing for him, right? So I
Yep.
should never forget how great Rhino was. But even 2012, 7 years after he won the world title for him, for TNA, he and Kevin Steen put on a hell of a match. So
Well,
I loved
he
it.
even a couple years ago when he debuted in Impact again,
Yeah,
he was putting on great matches. It's like he was great in ECW. He was good in WWE. He was great in Impact. He was great in Ring of Honor. He was good in WWE, and then he goes to Impact. He's great. So I can see where people kind of confuse how good he is, because most people, their experience with him was WWE. And when you unfortunately get that soured taste in your mouth when you see a few things, it's hard to remember that until you see them perform, that he's really good. He is
but
really,
even
really good.
but and I mostly agree with you about WWE. But even in WWE during the Invasion stuff, he was great then too. You know,
Yeah, and he was good when he was teaming with Christian too.
yeah,
When he was, Edge and Christian, part of that whole little clan. I guess he had a good
absolutely.
run there too. And then after that, he went to maybe it was just his thing with Heath Slater that kind of soured me on him. But
Probably.
yeah, you're right. It's like you forget how good he is until you see him wrestle. Then when you see him
It was
wrestle, you're like, oh my god, this guy is amazing.
it was funny last night because my wife sat down to watch part of the show with me after she got home, and she's like, "Wait, is that Rhino?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "He got chunky." I said, "No, he just got wide." 'Cause
No, he didn't. He's the exact same build he was in '99.
he's just a little bit wider. That's all.
Yeah,
He is.
but
So
and he does really good in that faction with Eric Young too.
yeah,
He fits them perfectly. Was it Violence by Design?
yeah. It's violent by design. Yeah, he and Doring were defending the tag titles last night in that fatal four way. So
But yeah, it's still it's tough for me to look at Eric Young being the comedy character he was last time he was in TNA, and then coming back and being this evil genius mastermind is still kind of tough.
if you um if you have an extra hour, okay, don't just watch Slammiversary. Watch the Slammiversary pre-show also, because that was very very well done.
I
They
was
did
gonna
like they did like an hour long kind of like history of TNA kind of thing, like, and
yeah,
they kind of like talked, but it was guys like Eric Young and Josh Alexander and the Brothers Good, talking about talking about their kind of, and Sammy Callahan, like talking about how they viewed the evolution, the evolution, and then the rev or the yeah, the evolution kind of the TNA over the years and why they wanted to work that kind of stuff. So
You know,
it was
and
I really enjoyed it. Sorry, go ahead.
when you look at TNA, and how good they were back in the day, and how bad they became because of Dixie Carter, it's no wonder it's taken them time to rebuild. But I think these working relationships, with crossover with AEW and New Japan and Ring of Honor and stuff, is going to really help them get back to what they were, because they've got some really talented people on that roster. Moose is a star. He's a superstar. Um, and then you've got Ace Austin, who's there. I know you've never really been a fan of TJP, but I've always thought he was a good performer. They have a lot of talent on that roster.
And don't forget about Morrissey, man. Don't forget about
Oh,
Morrissey.
he has been. I have been so surprised because I never thought he had this in him.
I didn't either.
Because what we saw him as Big Cass being a second to a loudmouth, and then his horrible feud with Enzo, and it was bad. But to see how
he's another guy that he's another guy that Melissa last night was like, I was like, look who that is. She's like, who is that? And I said, Big Cass. She's like, what? She
right.
couldn't believe that. She couldn't believe the change in him either. So,
and
it's
not only the physical change, but just his demeanor, everything about him. He is, and if that promo that he cut was true, he's got a chip on his shoulder, and he's carrying it with him into every
absolutely.
match, everything he does, and he is becoming a next level performer right now.
The other thing that pre-show, like Eric Young mentioned this, and I thought about it, like, and as soon as he said it, I was like, holy shit, he's right. It's like, he's like, I was lucky to come in. I was lucky to come into this organization as part of Team Canada because I can't think because this might, he's like, I'll put that stable up against anybody talent wise. If you think about it, it was Eric Young, Petey Williams was in there,
Bobby Roode.
Robert Roode, and Scott D'Amore. And there was one other guy in there. I can't think of his name, but he kind of fell by, he kind of fell by the wayside. But the other three have been absolute superstars for the last 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, you got 2 world champions on there. You've got one of the best cruiserweights of all time. Well, one of the best X division guys of all time. You had D'Amore, who was just an amazing mouthpiece. He's been an amazing front office guy. And then A1 was the other guy. And he just kind of disappeared. But yeah, that faction, I would put them up there with some of the all-time greatest factions ever.
Yeah.
Just when you look at the talent that came out of there.
Exactly, and that's what he was saying. So, I guess we should go back to Best in the World.
But yeah, so now that we kind of went over the show that we did watch, those were the couple things I wanted to make note of, is especially the Jay Lethal stuff that's coming up. But when we go to Best in the World 2012, I hate beyond words that I'm enjoying Danhausen.
What did I say last time?
He was so fun. That match he had against the Beer City Bruiser, and Brian Malonis, the bouncers, and even PCO didn't take away from the enjoyment I had from Danhausen.
No,
he was just fun to watch, and I hate that I enjoyed it.
I know it's so weird. It's like this. It's like when you see something grows on you like a fungus. That's that guy, right?
Yeah, that's Danhausen. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I want to talk about this. You mentioned it, and I really want to talk about it. But another match that I really enjoyed. This one's different though, because this one had a lot of great talent in it. And the part of it that I enjoyed may not be what you're going to think of right off the bat. But the Briscoes versus the Mecca and PJ Black.
Okay.
I loved PJ Black's performance as that tweener type, leaning more towards a heel than a face, but not really committing. I thought his performance was absolutely outstanding. Just with his character development and everything in there. I think he might have been the most enjoyable part of that match. but the Mecca, and you mentioned this, who's a better promo, the Mecca or MJF?
It's hard. It's hard, man.
It's really hard.
I was pissed off for saying 1 and 1A, but I really have no way. I really have no way to separate those two
It's as far
right now.
as, true heels and being able to draw heel heat even after saying positive things about the crowd and everything. Those two might be the best in the business doing it. Jay
Right.
White's another great one, but he's more established than Brian Johnson and MJF. But Jay White's another just great heel promo and great at working the crowd and things.
I guess just breaking it down, I would probably have to put MJF a little bit above Brian Johnson because I think MJF is better at modulating his voice and what he's saying than Brian Johnson is. But Brian is almost always like yelling,
Right.
and
Yeah,
and
that is
MJF
true.
is quite often just kind of talking to you. So I think that MJF is more of the like Macho Man Ric Flair type of promo where he'll talk and then he'll yell things for emphasis. Whereas I think Brian Johnson is more like in the pretty much every
Like
other
Hogan.
promo of all Hogan, Shawn Michaels,
Yeah.
Triple H, where they're just yelling at you. They're great on the mic still. So I guess
So
for that reason I would say MJF is better, but God, I enjoy Brian Johnson so much. I think Brian in the ring is just so fun as well. He's just like that old school guy, but he's gonna do like every little trick in the book he can think of to get the advantage on.
here I'm wanting to say that Brian Johnson's a young guy up and coming, but he's been wrestling on the independent circuit for 13 years.
Yeah.
Before coming to Ring of Honor, so he's not a young guy.
He is not a young guy.
But
no.
No, but he's 31 now. But I mean, I guess wrestling, he's still got a good 10 years. So he's got time to really establish himself. But I
with his style, he's got a good 25, 30 years.
Good point. Yeah, he does. Yeah, so I mean, he's got time to establish himself. But yeah, he's a great promo. He's a great heel. I loved PJ Black's performance in that match. That was just outstanding. In fact,
yeah, I mean, you're right because you're expecting him to at some point like grab Brian and be like, "What are you talking about? Why do you keep saying this shit?" And he didn't.
Right.
He just kept like not along or shrug.
Yeah. And even during the match, Brian Johnson would do his little heel move and he'd be like, "Oh, all right." He was so great in his role. Now, when we talk about this card, there was only 2 matches that I wish I hadn't seen.
Yeah.
The rest of this card I thought was great. The EC3 Flip Gordon stuff, start to finish. The ending of that was just, the match itself was great. The ending was great. The Dalton Castle's performance in that 6-man tag, and of course, STP is just, they're just great. But Dalton Castle, the way he came out to the big cheers and that his peacock stuff, and the way he was mocking the crowd and getting them to turn on him was just some outstanding work. I personally think my favorite match of the night was Josh Woods and Silas Young. That was an outstanding last man standing match. And I was so annoyed at the crowd because the crowd was telling Josh Woods to stack the table. Well, that wasn't in their script. They had an ending planned. They needed it side by side, and when he didn't stack the tables, they booed.
Right.
They would tell him to hit him with a chair, and when he just set up the chair, they booed. It's like it bugged me because it almost came across like the Ring of Honor crowd was trying to control the action and not just sit back and enjoy the story.
Yeah, and I had that same frustration, and I talked about this on our show before. I had that same frustration when I went to see Takeover Live, where I saw Gargano and Ciampa in a match against each other, and the crowd again was shitting. We want tables. They're not going to use tables. That's not the plan for the match.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's just I really hate crowds. I mean, and to suggest it is one thing, but to get mad that they didn't do it, that's the other.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Just enjoy the show. And that ending, I I I'm surprised Silas Young is still walking. Oh, it's the other thing about that 2012 Death Before Dishonor. We got the debut of Silas Young. It was so
Yes, we did.
weird seeing him without a mustache. So weird without his mustache. But yeah, and I guess I didn't realize he'd been around that long. But yeah, I think
I I love that finish so much because so often you see guys try to do like a dragon suplex or a German suplex from the apron to the outside, and you're like, why? You're gonna hit yourself as much as you hit the other guy. And here they got the table set up, so yeah, it's gonna hurt, but at least there's something to break the ball.
yeah. I don't know. I thought that might have been my favorite match of the whole show. Another match that, well, then the next two after that, you had Brody King versus Jay Lethal, which was outstanding, and Jonathan Gresham versus Mike Bennett was outstanding as well.
I was gonna say, I would say my favorite match of the show was Lethal versus King.
I
I loved that Brody King basically dominated Jay.
Yep.
And Lethal just could not get out of the blocks against him whatsoever.
And he did those 4 suicide dives, which I will say this: the thing about Ring of Honor is we didn't have a suicide dive in every match like we do in
Nope.
AEW and WWE. But I think Lethal made up for it with his 4 straight. And then to have Brody King still standing after that,
Yep.
was just he looked like a monster. And
Yeah, you got to think about
Gresham,
you got to think about it was a 2-time world champion and the longest reigning TV champion in history that he did that. You know.
Yeah, and then you had Gresham versus Bennett. That false finish made me so unhappy because I was so happy that Mike Bennett climbed the mountain and became a champion. And then to have that false finish was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. That's just heartbreaking. But there too, Bennett put on a hell of a match.
Yeah. Yeah, he did. I
And
really
I
enjoyed
think
this show, and I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think you'd mentioned something about how he's starting to grow on you now too.
He is. Yeah. I unfortunately the last 3 matches I've seen him in, he's just been outstanding, and I'm just like, God damn it, Bennett. But no, I mean, I'm glad. I'm glad that either he's turning the corner, or I'm turning the corner on him because I don't like not liking wrestlers. I don't. I
Right.
mean, I would much rather enjoy them, but when and it's not like I've ever hated Bennett. It's just been the fact that he's just been kind of I've had so much apathy towards him because I just don't think he's that good. And now these last 3, I mean, I guess you could count them 5 matches because 3 of them were at a gauntlet. But I mean, the last 3 matches I've seen him in, he's been absolutely outstanding.
Mhm.
And it is hard for me to count him as the same Mike Bennett. But if he's going to keep being like this, I'm gonna be happy to enjoy his stuff. You
I
know?
think I think the pure division coming back was one of the best things that could have happened to certain wrestlers. Like it made Jonathan Gresham a superstar.
Hmm.
It made us realize how good Mike Bennett can be, how good Josh Woods is. We were able to see talent because of this pure division that we never would have really noticed before. We knew they had something, but we didn't know how great they were until they were able to wrestle a pure style.
I Speaking of Jonathan Gresham, I really wish that he had not substituted for Tracy Williams in that tag match. I really wish that they've been playing so much with Fred Yehi being around and involved with um the foundation. I really wish Fred had been there and Fred had been the one to substitute for Tracy in that spot.
Yeah, instead of having him go out there a match later and just get destroyed by um, Homicide and Dickinson. You know, I want to say the last 2 out of 3 matches were bad, which they were. But I wasn't really fond of this match either, of
The
that
tag
tag team
match?
title match. Yeah,
I
I
really
just
enjoyed the tag team title match. I just didn't really like the ending. I think it's too early in his, and I guess you could say the same thing for Tony Deppen too. But I thought it was too early in Dickinson's ROH career to be a champion. And,
And
it seems like every time the Foundation get the tag titles, like they don't get out of the blocks before they're losing.
it seems like every time Rhett Titus gets tag titles, he, and that's another thing too. I really wish Rhett Titus they would have won, so Rhett Titus just could get his due. He is so much better when he's not that Lex Luger type, Lex Luger type, bodybuilder, whatever the hell he was.
Sure.
He was great as part of ANX. I love him as part of the Foundation. Can't wait to see him as part of Scum. And it's sad when you see a guy that is that talented. Really, I really got turned off by his little bodybuilder gimmick to the point where I couldn't stand him in the ring.
Right.
And Kenny King being down there calling that match too. I didn't get it. I mean, they did make a few references to him and Rhett being a tag team, but I didn't really understand why he was there.
Was he calling that match? I thought he only called the TV title match.
He was, well, he did, but he had come out because they switched the matches because to give Jonathan Gresham a little rest, and he had come out when he thought it was the tag team title match because he wanted to sit in and watch the tag title match.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, I guess he did lose it to Rhett, and because he was the one that got pinned by Tracy Williams, wasn't he?
No, it was who did? Kenny King?
Yeah, didn't he get pinned twice that night because he lost two titles to Tracy Williams?
No, I thought Besher got pinned. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Besher's the one who got for the tag titles.
Okay, but Kenny King filled in for Dragon Lee for the TV title, and then
he got dropped on his head. Lost.
Yep, and then Bestia. Yeah, you're right. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I actually really enjoyed the tag title match. I can see, I guess, where you're coming from on it, but I really enjoyed it. It
was Homicide. Homicide was what really turned me off on it because another guy that can't do anything except wrestle a hardcore style, like you were saying about Sammy Callahan. Lately, all he has to have that fork involved and everything.
Okay. I was gonna say because you mean like forever. That's not true. He.
Well, yeah. I mean,
he's part of the Pitbulls and he's running TNA. I mean, yeah. I mean, later TNA. Yeah, he was always involved in those hardcore matches against LAX, but original LAX, he was never really a hardcore guy.
No, he wasn't. So it was kind of. It's just disappointing to see him have to involve that stupid fork every time.
Yeah, and I'm really just torn on Chris Dickinson right now. So I need to give him more time to see if he grows on me. Like he feels like a guy I should enjoy. At the same time, I just don't. So it's weird,
And the only thing I can say about the other two matches was Ew and Uck, and holy crap. Like I did not expect Bandito to win, but I don't see a reason for Bandito winning.
Well, for the TV title match, first of all, I don't like Dragon Lee as TV champion. I never have. I never bought him beating Shane Taylor for that championship ever once in the history of life. I mean, we watched that match. I said the same thing at the time. I'm like, there is no way that guy beats you ever.
Right. Exactly.
And if he does, it should have been like a surprise, like Rey Mysterio type win where Taylor gets the win back, shortly after. It should not have been, oh yeah, I knocked Shane Taylor out with a knee strike. Fuck you. Secondly, Deppen, he had against Deppen just their match against each other, the final battle was absolutely fantastic. This match, I don't think they had any chemistry in it whatsoever. And then Kenny King coming down there, they made such a big deal about Bestia being a licensed second out there.
Right.
So why the referee let Kenny King come down there, and then why did he let him stay down there? And if that was the case, if Brody King formed Violence Unlimited, so he had people to watch his back, why was anybody watching Deppen's back?
Right.
That didn't make any sense.
And then the other thing
go ahead. I'm sorry.
The other thing about that was Caprice Coleman and Ian Riccaboni trying to cover up for the lack of chemistry by calling Tony Deppen legitimately crazy.
Yeah.
That kind of stuck out like a sore thumb too. It's like they didn't have chemistry, and it almost felt like them talking about him being crazy and unhinged and everything was their way of covering up the fact that these two just were not gelling.
Correct. And then like the last 3 minutes was just all Dragon Meat. So I did not like that whatsoever. And then they talk about you get to the world title match, and not only do you have Bandito win, but you have him win the surprise fashion because he gets a roll up out of it. And again, didn't fit the story because where the hell were La Faccione Dornado? Every other one of Rush's matches, they've either been out there or they brought out their help. They did not do that at all.
Well, and the other thing too is, to start the match the way they did with the Dalton Castle to Bull's horns right in a row, match could have been over. I would have been happier with the match had it ended like that in 6 seconds than going through what we actually saw. Because then, of course, we got to do Roosh out in the ring, outside of the ring for the majority of the match, and prancing around and doing all this stuff. And yeah, Bandito did get in some offense, but the ripping off of the mask and then the surprise roll up, and literally, this is how little I thought Bandito had a chance of winning this. Is when it happened, my mouth dropped open. I went, "Huh? Did I just?" And I had to rewind it to make sure I saw what I saw, because I couldn't believe that they would do something like that. Let a guy get basically Mikey whipwrecked, and then put the company's top title on him.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason I can see that is because they really want to put it on Flip. Otherwise, this makes no sense, because Flip being a heel is going to have a little more impact winning it from a face Bandito than it would against heel versus heel against Roosh.
I don't get it at all. At all. I mean, it doesn't. It's not any part of their faction warfare. It's not any part of what's been going on. They wrestled each other 2 years ago, sure, but they really have no other history against each other. And it's not like Bandito's. Yeah, Bandito is popular, but is he as popular as he would be if they let him build up for a while as a single star, so they're just breaking him off from a faction of all and then automatically putting the world title on him? No. And like you said, I would have been a lot more happy if Roosh had hit the Bull's horns, pinned Bandito, that match is over, and then Brody King comes out and says, "Motherfucker, you owe me a rematch."
Right.
And like basically goes Roosh and gives him a title match, and King walks out of the
right.
But I mean, really, these guys, as much as I enjoy what Ring of Honor is doing, and I do enjoy it. I told you guys that a couple weeks ago. Like, I enjoy watching their program every week. They really have a terrible job. They've done a terrible job lately of picking their spots at changing the world championship. Like, and you can say what you want to about Marty Skrull, guys. Jeff and I have made our feelings very clear on the situation. If you guys feel differently, that's fine. But 2 years ago, he should have been a world champion. There's no question.
Mm-hmm.
He should have been the world champion.
He should have won it the night that Taven did.
Yeah.
And then him and Taven should have had a feud.
And I understand Bruce winning the championship. I do, because he was so hot. But there was no reason to switch the title to PCO. And then once you switch the title to PCO, there was no reason to switch it back to Roosh. And now that Roosh is champion, and you've got guys coming after him like Lethal, and you've got Red Titus is mentioned wanting to win the world title from him. And then you've got Shane Taylor, and you've got Brody King, and you switch it to Bandito, who has basically no time. It doesn't make any sense.
No,
and you've got and other guys that are in that same path, or EC3, like you mentioned, Flip Gordon. So you've got 6 challengers that make a lot more sense than Bandito flipping the title to. I don't get it at all.
Yeah, the only reason I could see that this happened is so that they can put the title on Flip and have him win it from a face. That's the
You really,
only reason I can see this as
but do
why
you?
they did it.
I'm sorry, but do you really think they're going to have him hold the title for less than for a month? I mean, a month and a week or whatever it is.
He doesn't have to defend it. You know, that's the thing. Unless Roosh comes out and wants his rematch immediately. But yeah, I mean, he doesn't have to defend it. So
Well,
they
he does. He does against Flip though. That's what I'm saying. Do you really?
right. He
Can
doesn't.
you can
He
you can
doesn't.
you can you really see him only holding the title for like a month and a week? Because even if he doesn't defend it, he won it at Best of the World, loses it at Glory by Honor. That doesn't make any sense.
I don't know. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I it just this whole Bandito thing doesn't make sense. So
No.
I mean, unless Roosh gets a rematch on Ring of Honor TV in the next month and wins it back, I can't honestly see a spot where it doesn't go to anybody but Flip.
And Rooster gets the second ever three-time Ring of Honor World Champion. Really?
Maybe that's in his contract. Maybe that's why they did it. I don't know. There was nothing about this match that made sense. There's nothing about Bandito winning that makes sense. It just was not. When you look at other surprise wins, it's usually for a secondary title. Very rarely is it a world title that's a surprise win.
Yeah.
But like I said, I mean, Bandito basically got Mikey whipwrecked throughout the entire match. Same thing, and then to pull off the win was, I can't think of anyone else that Santino Marella maybe when he won from Umaga would probably be another one like this that makes no sense.
You know, I'm just remembering that Bandito actually hit the 21 plex in this match. Too.
And
Yeah, the
yeah,
21,
Roosh
yeah,
kicked
the
out.
21 plex and Roosh kicked out. Yeah, so why? Why not just have the match? I don't get. I mean that would be like a really real crowding moment is you hit your finishing move in the middle of the ring and the guy can't kick out of it, right?
And then not only does he kick out of the 21 plex, but he also gets a surprise roll up, and then his faction just beats down the new champion.
Yeah.
There's nothing about Bandito that looks good coming out of this. But
That's also that's the other thing I was going to say is can we get a Ring of Honor pay-per-view that does not end with a beatdown in the middle of it?
No, we can't. No, that's
Because
in the Ring of Honor.
Because Final Battle and Anniversary Show and this show were all great shows, but they all ended with a beatdown in the middle.
But at least they ended with matches that made sense. This one just didn't. But no, I think that's in their pay-per-view contracts. They have to have a show end with a beatdown. Every show needs to end with a beatdown.
All right.
I just think that's part of their contract.
So, speaking of upcoming wrestling, I actually made the decision to. I'm going to buy GCW Homecoming on Fight TV this week coming up.
Why?
Because when I'm going to be in Chicago, they're running a show the night before All Out.
Yeah. That's right. They do that every year. Okay.
So I wanted to at least give a little taste to them, see if I like them before I decide if I'm going to buy tickets for the show. So
well, GCW is where you can see Homicide stabbing people with knives.
Sweet.
And forks. That's why he has the fork. They even mentioned that. I think Ian said this isn't GCW. You can't use that here.
Well, I'm gonna buy that. It's a 2-night event, so I'm gonna buy it. It's gonna get like I don't know. You basically like pay half price for one of them if you buy the package. So I'm gonna buy the bundle, and we can watch that for a couple of weeks time show maybe something like that. So
okay, all right. Well, we got what, a month and a half before All Out.
Month and a half before All Out, we got Glory by Honor on August 21st and 22nd, and we've got actually isn't there there's a what's that in the United States W show that's coming up? Rampage it's called, I think, right? No, Rampage is the new AEW show. What's the name of the NJPW show coming up?
I don't know.
We actually didn't watch the last season either, did we? For NJPW.
Summer Struggle is coming up. Oh no, that happened. Summer Struggle
Yeah.
just happened.
Yeah, that's why we didn't watch it. So we probably should watch that for our next show.
Actually, that's not a bad idea because Rocky Romero versus El Fantasma was on that.
Really?
Yeah, actually I wouldn't mind seeing that match.
Huh? I swear I can't find the show right now, but I swear there's a U.S. show coming up for in Los Angeles for NJPW.
The movie Godzilla vs. Kong presents Summer Struggle in Osaka, Thursday, July 22nd. So it hasn't happened yet.
Hey Jeff, just
Summer
trivia for
Struggle
you.
in Sapporo, night 1, July 10th. Okay, so July 10th was when night 1 was.
Yeah. Do you remember? Just some trivia for you. Do you remember back when Jay White won the United States Championship?
Yeah.
Do you remember who his first challenger was for?
No, I don't. Wasn't it Adam Page?
Nope. Was it Adam Page?
I think it was Hangman because he came out and remember he had that argument with Kenny that started Kenny's whole little like weirdness cycle.
Okay. Do you remember who his second? Do you remember who his second challenger was?
No, I don't.
David Finlay.
Was it? Okay.
Guess what the main event for the Resurgence pay-per-view coming up on August 14th in the United States is?
Finlay versus White?
For the Never Openweight Championship.
When is this?
August 14th in Los Angeles.
I need to watch that.
That's the only match that's been announced. It's the only match that's been announced so far, but that is the looks like the main event is 60-minute match for the Never Openweight Championship. Jay White in his first defense against David.
Okay, so on this Summer Struggle card, I'm not trying not to look at the results, but we have Kenta Evil, Takahashi, and Dick Togo versus Tanahashi, Ishii, Yoda Tsuji, and Yuya Uemura. Then we have Taichi, ZSJ, and Minoru Suzuki against Naito, Sonata, and Bushi. Robbie Eagles, Sho and Yo versus El Desperado, Kanemaru, and Doki. And Taguchi versus Ishimori. Rocky Romero versus El Fantasmo. And that's it.
Okay. But you said that was Summer Struggle night 1?
Yep, that's night 1. Now coming up night 2, which is on July 23rd, is Naito versus ZSJ, Sonata versus Taichi, Kota and Master Wato versus Shingo and Bushi. So we're setting up for a Kota versus Shingo. Okada and Yoshihashi versus Cobb and Great Khan. Tanahashi and Ishii and Toru Yano versus Kenta Evil and Takahashi.
Okay.
Goto, Taguchi, and Romero versus Ishimori, El Fantasmo, and Jado. So that's night 2 on the 23rd. And then on the 24th, Tanahashi versus Kenta, Ishii versus Evil, Ibushi and Master Wato versus Shingo and Bushi. Why would they do that same match 2 nights in a row? Okada and Yano versus Cobb. What is happening here?
I don't know.
Yeah, because they're doing 2 back-to-back tag teams that are the exact same. Okada and Yano versus Cobb and Great Khan. Goto, Yoshihashi, and Taguchi and Rocky Romero versus Takahashi, Ishimori, Phantasmo, and Jado. And then Robbie Eagles, Show and Yo versus El Desperado, Kanemaru, and Doki. So it looks like the last four tag team matches are just rehashes. But the two new ones on that show are Tanahashi versus Kenta and Ishii versus Evil.
And what night is that?
That's on the 24th.
July?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, the only two matches I'll watch, because the other four are tag team matches that are just rehashes, is Tanahashi and Kenta, Ishii, and Evil. And I didn't see Jay White's name on any of this.
No, because he's in the United States, right?
Oh, that's right. And Japan's closed down again, aren't they?
Yeah. Did you see the card for the 22nd though? We've got my favorite yearly G1 climax match happening.
Sonata versus CSJ?
Yeah, as the semi-main event. Yeah, that's awesome. So,
yeah, Naito versus Taichi. That actually, I have some interest in that match. Both those matches. Tag matches, I don't care, but yeah, so really, Cat.
Oh wow, and then look at what we've got coming up at Wrestle Grand Slam on the 25th, Jeff.
Yeah, I don't have that here.
You don't?
No.
Okay, we've got an opening Rambo match for the KOPW.
Yeah.
Then we've got Rocky Romero and Taguchi challenging Phantasmo and Ishimori for the Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championships. Then we've got Robbie Eagles challenging El Desperado for the Junior Heavyweight Championship. Then we've got Okada versus Cobb. Then we've got Sonata and Naito challenging the Dangerous Tekkers for the World Tag Team Championships. And then we've got Kota Ibushi challenging Shingo Takagi for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship.
Okada versus Cobb is going to be a fun match.
Yeah, I'm there for that card. I am there for everything on that.
And is Bullet Club the junior tag title holders?
Yeah, they must have somewhere that we missed. They must have beaten.
And Rocky versus Rocky Romero and
Risky Taguchi. Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, that match maybe I'm not so fond of, but Robbie Eagles versus El Desperado.
Yeah, that'll be fun. So Naito and Sonata versus Tekkers too is going to be a fun match. I just saw something about Kota maybe missing that show.
Really?
That's at the Tokyo Dome, right?
Yeah.
Could Kota Ibushi potentially miss Tokyo Dome Clash in NJPW? Match of the year charts all around the world, provided it actually gets to happen. The main event is planned to be Kota versus Shingo for the IWGP Heavyweight title, but Ibushi could miss the show. He's been missing shows following COVID-19 vaccine. Recently, the entire NJPW roster has been vaccinated for COVID-19 following some outbreaks in the locker room. Vaccines were required and administered to the entire roster in preparation for Wrestling Grand Slam and the coming G1 Climax. Kota Ibushi is the only member of the roster who has been noted to have had a rough time following the vaccine. He's become sick and has had to miss a few cards, which led to some interesting matches, such as Master Wato going one-on-one with Shingo Takagi. Holy Master Wato.
Sorry, go ahead.
The next show Ibushi has been announced to miss is the July 19th Summer Struggle card. So tomorrow night, where he was booked in an 8-man tag. So he's already missing that. So there, with the 25th so close and Ibushi not yet cleared, NJPW might have to do a last minute change for Shingo.
So what would they do there? Maybe fit. Who else could fit in there? Evil. Trying
Well,
to think who
here
else. Trying to
is
think who else could fit into that. Who else could fit into that slot?
it
That would
wouldn't be
be.
hard.
Go ahead.
This is what it says here. This wouldn't be hard to do. While Ibushi is a fantastic matchup, they have options. One is Tanahashi, who defeated Takagi earlier this year for the never openweight title.
Fair.
And then another one is it's Tanahashi. Um, Other options mainly include veteran names like Yuji Nagata, Satoshi Kojima, Minoru Suzuki, Sonata, Cobb, Naito, and Okada are already booked on the card, so they can't, be a part of it. But people that aren't booked are Tanahashi, who beat him earlier this year, Nagata, Kojima, and Suzuki. So, I mean, they do have some options they could do if Kota does miss.
Yeah, and really, I mean, Kojima and Nagata are clearly way past their prime, but both of those guys, if they get that call, they are capable of putting on match of the year.
Oh yeah, yeah, and they would be believable walking in off the street as a challenger
Yeah,
without any build. And of course, same thing with Suzuki. He would be believable as a challenger for
yeah,
Shingo.
yeah.
I'm in awe
But
of the
but, but, does, but doesn't it seem like that Grand Slam show was cursed? I mean, they already had to change it, move venues, and that they stripped Will Ospreay of the title because he wasn't able to because he got injured before, wasn't able to defend it there, and now again the
yeah.
main event
And
might be off.
what a world we live in, though, that the three champions this year were Kota, Osprey, and Shingo.
Yeah,
Three people that, what, 2 to 3 years ago, you never would have thought you would have seen as IWGP heavyweight title holders. And now
right.
all three of them have been this year alone. It's fascinating to me.
Yeah, well, but really 4 of the last 5 because we never would have thought Evil would have won the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship.
True.
Dominion.
Yeah, and Naito had a 5-year buildup for it, so we knew that was eventually going to happen.
Exactly.
But so I don't have anything else. This is a little longer than we have been doing, but I miss wrestling talk. So guys, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. We've got archives up there and some exclusive shows that aren't found on our YouTube or anywhere else. And then, of course, our YouTube channel. If at any moment during this you enjoyed anything that Shane laughed at me about, feel free to hit the like button. And of course, always subscribe and ring the notification bell because, with typical weeks are about 3 shows per week. Lately, with summer struggles, pun intended, we haven't had a show for a couple weeks, but we're hoping to get a few more out there and back to our 3 per week schedule here soon.
Absolutely. And Jeff, I've been having a few people bug me to watch Loki. So do you want to try watching Loki for our next pop culture show?
Yeah, there's only 6 episodes, so
I think is it 6 or 7? I can't remember. It's something.
6.
Okay.
I got a notification earlier that all 6 episodes are now live on Disney Plus. I am a little disappointed that Black Widow. Why am I paying for Disney Plus, and then have to pay another $40 to watch Black Widow?
Well, it'll be on there eventually. But yeah, if you want to watch
not
it,
till October.
right? Yeah, that's what I mean. It'll be on there eventually, but it's part of that premiere access thing where right now it's in theaters. You got to pay $30 or $40, whatever it is, to watch it.
Or I could go to the theater and watch it for $8.
Well, 8 per ticket plus concessions, and so you probably would end up paying $40 anyway.
Not if it's just me.
I don't know. You eat a lot. So.
Wow. Painful. But no, I can't get behind that charging me $40 to watch a movie from my couch.
Yeah.
And then not even own it. Like if I'm gonna pay that kind of money, like when COVID first struck, we rented Sonic when it was supposed to be live in theaters, And we bought it. It was $20 and I get to keep the movie forever.
Yeah.
With Black Widow, I pay $40, can watch it, and then can't watch it again until it gets released in October. And then it's only on the streaming service. So if the streaming service ever decides to pull it, I can never watch it again. So I'm gonna pay $40 for something I can never see again, possibly.
No, I think you can watch as much as you want to. What you paid for it on.
Oh, I thought it was only up for like 30 days and then it was going down. But
I don't think so. But either
whatever.
way, I'm not. But I did consider it because the thing with the Marvel movies is, what if something in Black Widow is also mentioned in Shang-Chi or in Secret Wars or whatever, and then also in Eternals, and because it's kind of like stacking it down, So I don't know. I mean,
Well,
I might try to go look at it. Don't they do like last run Tuesdays in Virginia still? So I could probably go there and pay like $5 to see it one of these Tuesday nights.
yeah, I don't know if I'm going to. I'm watching the Marvelverse in order right now. I just finished Iron Man, the original Iron Man last night. So I watched Captain America, Captain Marvel, and then the first Iron Man.
Oh, you're talking about chronological.
What's that?
Chronological.
Yeah, chronological.
Not release order, but chronological.
No, chronological order.
I'm sorry, you had to watch Captain Marvel.
I like Captain Marvel. I thought that was a fun movie.
Okay.
I'm kind of sick of origin stories, but after seeing 3 in a row. But
I actually did not mind that origin story because they actually did like a twist. They did quite a few twists on her actual origin story.
yeah, because they didn't show it in timeline order like they did in Captain America. It wasn't before major event, then after. It was just kind of done in flashbacks, kind of like they did with Jupiter's Legacy, where their origin story was told in flashbacks.
And they also twisted it so that the Skrulls were the good guys and not the bad guys.
Yeah, that too. So, all right, guys. I got nothing else. I don't know.
No, I think this has been a good discussion, and I'm glad you guys watched. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll be back with you when we can. This is Shane saying long days, pleasant nights, and Jeff saying
Goodbye.